I'm so mad that I have to record everything all over again because I forgot to turn on the mic. 2 hours of my day gone. Okay. Hi guys, today we'll be talking about what is really echolalia, especially in adults, by sharing some of my own personal experiences and also by clarifying some misconceptions or what I believe can be misleading information. So here we go. ¡Qué bonito, cabrón! So here is the best answer I found. So what is echolalia? The best answer I found was actually in Wikipedia because all the other sites seem to be having very biased answers that seem more inclined towards being understood as something that mainly kids with speech problems use. And that is in fact not true. So here is the best answer that I found. Echolalia is the unsolicited repetition of vocalizations made by another person. When repeated by the same person, it's called polylalia. In its profound form, it is automatic and effortless. It is one of the echophenomena closely related to echopraxia, the automatic repetition of movements made by another person. Both are subsets of imitative behavior, whereby sounds or actions are imitated without explicit awareness. Echolalia may be an immediate reaction to a stimulus or may be delayed. Echolalia occurs in many cases of autism spectrum disorder and Tourette's syndrome. It may also occur in several other neurological conditions such as some forms of dementia and stroke-related aphasia. The word echolalia is derived from the Greek, meaning echo or to repeat, and lalia, meaning speech or to talk. This is pretty much the best concise answer to everything. Although when you read most sources out there, their definition seems to be describing something else, and a lot of the answers are very contradictory, which I will be pointing out here. But I really admire how Wikipedia did a great job to grab the best of everything and really concise it and make it clear what it was. My experience with echolalia. I started experiencing echolalia since I was a baby, of course, like everyone. However, my mom mentioned to me that she found it fascinating that she would hear me do the cutest hummings when I was a baby. I would always, to this day, I always hum like this. I always do these little hummings depending on what song I'm hearing or humming. So she often heard me as a baby humming songs or sounds. And she told me that nothing really struck out of the ordinary other than me adapting some movie characters like Bambi and maybe repeating some of the dialogues I would hear in cartoons at later times. But that's pretty common in most kids. It wasn't nothing that was too constant or too noticeable. So other than that, it was just the hummings. She noticed that those never went away. I believe I actually didn't start echoing movies out loud till I was an adult. When I moved to this country as I was trying to improve my English, and also I was really attracted to copying accents. So it just kind of like started happening slowly. But now when I do it, it's more like habitual and automatic thing. Like many times I don't notice when I'm doing it. From my experience, echolalia is something that my brain does as a learning mechanism, but also as a tool that helps me regulate my mind and as well as to concentrate. Most people don't see the importance in this mechanism because of the social stigma. Echolalia helped me actually learn English at a very young age when no one around me really spoke English other than my mom. She would pretty much taught me the basics, and she will practice with me at times, but not as constant. So all I really had to practice was my English cartoons. It also helped me perfection it as an adult when I moved to this country by I started repeating pretty much everything that I will hear in movies. Moreover, since it's connected to my sensory processing, many times it gets triggered by stimuli. For example, every time that I hear or read a word that has an S in it, especially towards the end or at the beginning, I start doing this sound. I do it every time, whether I hear it or I read it. This actually started happening to me as an adult after a few incidents with drugs. So I feel like some of my sensory got more hyped up because of this drug that I was taking. So I do that every time. It's kind of like most of the time I can't help it. But it's that kind of depends. But usually when I'm reading, it's when I just kind of have to do it, and it's more of a stimming kind of like thing that I have to do, or I get like super anxious, or I don't know. I just can't really explain the feeling. I don't want to say it will be the end if I don't do it, but something makes me just like I have to do it. So also when I'm concentrated or thinking very deeply, I tend to hum a song that I was hearing either earlier or the other day or in that moment, and it just really helps me concentrate or relax. I do understand, however, that this can be of annoyance when to other people when we're watching a movie. I also understand that people that don't know me can find it offensively if they were to hear me, copying something that they said or mimicking them, especially if they don't know what's going on. But of course, they may not understand. So I have trained myself to control it for the most part. It is possible to train your brain to not do it in those situations, or at least to not make it like extremely obvious. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the different types of echolalia, and then I'm going to proceed to talk about all the examples, like of each type that I do, which I believe I do believe all the different types that are known to be observed in most people, either neurodivergents or neurotypicals. But I will explain the difference between, why it's more obvious on someone, on an autistic person like myself, and why is that I do it. Of course, the performance of each type will vary significantly from person to person. According to this blog, echolalia is common among people with autism spectrum disorder. Emerging studies have questioned the long-held belief that echolalia may be a behavior with no purpose. So far, I was able to find the following types of echolalia. They are pretty much can be immediate. Any echolalia can be either immediate or delayed, and there's other terms that I found that have been used in different times. Some of them are more outdated than others. You might find in some resources that they use this term, but not, but it just really means the same as this other term. All the different terms there is functioning and non-functioning, which I feel like is a very derogatory way of putting it, because echolalia is not for functioning or non-functioning purposes. I will explain what it really is to me, but it's not for those purposes at all. It's just a tool. It's a mechanism that we can use for many purposes, actually. Also, a different way of calling it, and for functioning, other people prefer to call it interactive, which they both mean the exact same thing, but interactive is a more appropriate term for it. So interactive, and for non-functioning, it's non-interactive. And also there's the last two, which is mitigated and ambient, which is I think very outdated term that doesn't, it's the same pretty much. Mitigated is the same as interactive, and ambient is the same as non-interactive. Immediate and delayed. According to studies, it's believed that all types of echolalia can be immediate and delayed. Usually are immediate, meaning that when an individual hears something, he or she will repeat it right away, automatically, and unintentionally. However, many times people can hear a word, a phrase, a sound, or even a song, and then start repeating it either like hours later or even days later, and with either intentionally or unintentionally. I think this type of echolalia is the most common one amongst all humans, NDs and NTs. An example would be like when you hear a song and you either start, you start singing it right away, or you start just singing it like maybe like days later, like randomly, and you don't even remember why. Or when we hear a phrase that maybe caught our attention, and we either intentionally start repeating it, right away or days later, or we unintentionally start saying it out of nowhere. Capiche? Yeah, that thing happens to all of us. What usually happens to me is that when I'm watching the most is when I'm watching a movie, I either start mimicking or copying the dialogue of one or more of the characters, or I start humming the background sound if it calls my attention. Sometimes I do neither, and sometimes I do both. If I have to guess, I would say that if a certain sound or voice or accent or tone called my attention, I just start echoing it, I guess. Sometimes I'll be humming a song that I like the most out of a playlist that I was hearing that day, and sometimes I'll be humming a song that I heard but I absolutely dread. I believe that I've been told actually this happens to many of us, if not most of us. It's this so-called, I have this stupid song stuck in my head and we'll be humming it or singing it all day. Yeah, so I just think like this happens to me like a lot more than average, than usual. I don't know, like I feel like it happens to me like all the time, and just other people it just happens sometimes. Interactive and non-interactive. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read this quote that I found under this blog, the source online. I like how they summarize just what both of them means, which is the same as what I'm going to be reading under this as well. But pretty much it starts by saying that delayed echolalia is characterized into interactive and non-interactive echolalia, which it creates a confusion there, because they should have been a little more clear. So yes, while delayed echolalia can be interactive and non-interactive, immediate echolalia, I guess it's very unlikely that it's going to be interactive. Immediate echolalia is more like a stimuli. It's more like a kind of like an automatic, kind of like reflex or response or just tick or whatever that we do out of like most likely like stimming without the purpose. We're just kind of like boom boom repeat things, and it's more like a just pretty much part of our sensory processing. So yeah, delayed echolalia can have both. Immediate echolalia, it seems that there hasn't been any findings of people mimicking things right away with the purpose of communicating. So I guess that's what they say. It's non-interactive, and that makes sense. That makes sense to me totally. But yeah, I just wanted to make that clarification, because interactive, non-interactive just applies to. Pretty much applies to everything, but it's mainly those. The interactive is more like with a delayed one, because it's more with an intent. If I make any sense. So interactive echolalia is also called functional echolalia. It is an effort to communicate with another individual. Non-interactive echolalia may be for personal use and generally lacks communicative intent. Now I'm going to describe functional and non-functional. So functional, same as interactive, meaning that the professionals believe that it's an echolalia that it is used with the intent to communicate and interact with others. Meaning the autistic person is using echolalia in a functional manner because he's actually using a phrase to communicate. In other words, it is a type of echolalia that most kids with speech impediments use as a means of communication, which is considered functioning. Now, non-functional echolalia, when the individual is using a type of echolalia with no communicative intent, pretty much, or purposes, and they are simply repeating words, sounds, phrases, etc., as a form of stimming, which is exactly how I use echolalia. And then the additional ones were that I mentioned, mitigated and ambient, which is the same as mitigated is the same as functional, or interactive, and ambient is the same as non-interactive. So mitigated is pretty much an additional term for functional and interactive echolalia. It took me forever to be able to figure out what it meant because all sites had like different meanings, and all these random sites use like the term to explain very differently until I finally got what it meant. So pretty much it's in the word. Like mitigate means like they're trying to mitigate language. They're trying to kind of find a middle ground to communicate with somebody else. It's just pretty much what it means. However, mitigate is more precisely referred to when an individual uses chunks of language and recombine the words to create language or communicate. And that's why professionals consider this echolalia as a stepping stone to language. Then children start to modify these chunks of language and start to mix and recombine phrases that they have heard. This is why it's called mitigated echolalia. For example, let's say that an individual wants cookies in bed, right? So this kid may echo or say a phrase that he heard at a cookie commercial. And then he's going to say that phrase that he heard at a cookie commercial combined with the phrase that he hears every time he is put to bed or he has to go to bed. So those two phrases, phrases that may not be proper English or proper language, but he knows what both of these phrases means, and with the hope that the other person is going to understand what he's trying to say. Again, this is common among people with speech delays. So ambient, what's right here that is pretty much the refers to the repetition of random environment stimuli and not speech. However, the same as non-interactive echolalia, but this is most commonly correlated to people with dementia and aphasia. And all the websites, they gave very limited, honestly, examples. But what didn't make really good sense to me was that the only example that I saw was that like people like the sound of a TV in the background. That's what they say. So not sure if they meant like the person will copy the sound of the TV or the dialogue of the TV show. But who knows? At the end of the day, I think it's just anything that is, I think it's just like the same as non-interactive, whatever non-interactive sounds we do, like the ones that I do, echolalia. I think it's just pretty much the same thing, but I think it's a more outdated term that was mainly referred to when studying cases of people with dementia. And yeah, so pretty much this name it was in the category of sounds and words that are echoed for stimming purposes, which is pretty much the same as non-functional. So that's the kind of echolalia that I have or do. Well, I don't. Some weird to say I have because you don't have echolalia. That's, to me, echolalia is not a disorder, and it's as a matter of fact, some people wanna portrayed as that, like the one that kind of says that type of disorders, a type of thing that or condition that people have, but it's not that at all. It's like not at all a condition, not at all a disorder, and it, as a matter of fact, hasn't been proven to be. It's just a tool. It's more like a mechanism. It's so technically it's a mechanism that all humans have, and some utilize it more than others. So technically, it's I can say that I utilize it. So just so you don't get confused, these last two terms are not really important to remember at all. Like what's really important right here to remember is that just pretty much that there's non-interactive and interactive echolallias. So as long as you understand what those two are, that's all you really need to understand. And the variety of examples, as well as the fact that they can all be immediate or delayed. I'm not sure they all be immediate for the most part, but for sure this either immediate or delayed, and that's it. I just wanted to bring them up to clarify this. One thing to remember about psychology is that terms are always terms are always changing, or new updated terms always come up, like every year, faster and faster. Pretty much things are changing a lot in psychology with the advance of stuff and other factors. So now, different examples of echolalia that I do.